How's everybody doing? How we doing this week? Welcome to episode 47 of Who Gives a Dram. I am your host, Connor Gilbert. If you're a new listener, thank you for checking out the podcast. If you're a returning listener, I appreciate the continued support, as always. This podcast is brought to you by The Grapevine Media, so go check us out over there, www.thegrapevinemedia.com. Feel bad for my boys over there this week with the Patriots losing, but Mac Jones looking really good. So, give a little, take a little. You know what I'm saying? Mac Jones really did look really good. For my money, he's probably going to be the best. He's definitely going to be the best quarterback that comes out of that draft class. I think he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in the next few years. That's just me, though. But regardless, go check out the Grapevine Media. Lots of content over there. That's where I post my whiskey blogs. It's where we post, sports blogs, movie blogs, gaming blogs, stocks, stuff like that. Just go check it out. It's a passion project of me and my friends, and we want you to check it out. www.thegrapevinemedia.com. Also, if you want to support the podcast, whether you're a new listener, whether you're an old listener, the best way to do it is to subscribe on all platforms. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, yada, yada, yada. Like and comment the videos on YouTube and subscribe on there, and leave a rating and review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. It's the best way to do it. So if you like the show, you want to support me, go check me out over there. Subscribe, like, review, do all that stuff. That'll help me out. Also, social medias, Instagram, Who Gives a Dram, TikTok, all that. You know where to find me. I'm everywhere. I hope everyone had a good week. It was a long, stressful week for your boy. A lot of things happening, a lot of curveballs being thrown my way this week that I won't bore you guys with, but it was definitely a tough week. I'll bore you guys with one of the aspects. You guys know I keep it so honest on this podcast. I'm so honest. S''honest. I'm so honest. Don't lie. You guys are my listeners or my friends. And I want to express what I'm feeling directly to you guys. That's the whole vibe of the show. Is I express what I'm feeling directly to you guys. No filter. No painting over it with large strokes. With broad strokes, I mean. I tell you guys what I'm feeling. When I told you guys that Rye 3 was my favorite rye whiskey on the podcast so far, I meant it. I didn't just say that because Karthik and Matt were on the podcast. I meant it, and I still mean it. I drink it a lot. So I'm so honest with you guys. So here's what's going on. So, okay, and the guys that are listening to this podcast, which I'm assuming is most of the people listening, are gonna totally understand where I'm coming from this. So as guys, sometimes our toenails get messed up, okay? That's just what happens. We don't go get pedicures or whatever the foot one is. We don't get that, okay? Sometimes our toes get messed up. Sometimes we get some funk in more specifically the big toes, and that's just what happens as a guy. We kind of just let it do its course. We keep it clean. It goes away. Well, mine hasn't gone away in about 2 months now, and to what I'm referring to as now a fungus toe, that's what's happening, and it hurts, and it's puffy, and it bleeds, and now I got to get surgery on it. So that's happening, and I'm fine with hospitals. I'm fine with needles. That doesn't bother me. I don't like the feeling of the shots that numb you. They always hurt. And I'm just not looking forward to that happening because it is a very sensitive area down there right now because it does hurt. Just not looking forward to that initial prick and the quote unquote surgery that's happening. So not looking forward to that, but I got to deal with it because it is starting to really hurt and I can't ignore it anymore. I'm talking about, I've had this fungus toe all the way since, remember when I was talking about my cousin's bachelor party that I went to a few weeks ago, maybe 6 weeks ago now? I had fungus toe then, and I still have it now, and I had it before that bachelor party too. So it's time for me to take care of that, and I got to do that. This is the fungus toe episode. So next week, this fungus toe will hopefully be gone. So that's a big curveball that came my way this week. So now I'm stressing out about that. Not going to lie, you guys, powerlifting has kind of taken a back seat for the moment. Not really voluntarily. Been working a lot. Been busy. And, because of that, I've allowed myself to have a little more whiskey during the week. I wasn't feeling too great last night. It's that time of year where allergies are coming out. It's the best time of year. It's spooky season, but allergies are coming out, and you just don't feel good. So last night, I was like, you know what? I want some tea. Went over to my parents' house. My mom made me some tea, and I just was like, I'm going to put a little Buffalo Trace in this, make a little hot toddy, and that's what they called me in high school. And I made a little hot toddy, and it tasted good, and I'm glad I did it. But yeah, I've been drinking a few drams this week. I had a big old glass of mellow corn a few nights ago. Tasted good. I actually posted a picture of it on Instagram with the Boondock Saints quote. If you guys ever seen Boondock Saints, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. And Willem Dafoe's in it, and he's just the one of the creepiest looking guys of all time, but he's awesome. And I'm excited to see him as Green Goblin in the upcoming Spider-Man movie. Not confirmed yet, but for sure happening. If it doesn't, they're stupid. I actually have a little, I don't know, I wasn't even going to mention that fungus toe thing, but we're 6 minutes in now, 7 minutes in. It's just what happens. We keep us honest on this podcast. I have a little notes thing here about stuff I want to talk about before we get into the whiskey. By the way, the whiskey this week, which I'll go into later, I found a Buffalo Trace weeded recipe on the shelves for $40. And by we, I mean my confidant that works for me finding bottles. And by that, I mean my brother. And he found this on his own, and I just took it from him. That's the benefits of being the older brother, is you get to do stuff like that. But found this on the shelf, $40, true MSRP. And obviously, we've cracked it open a bit to just give it some tasty poos. I've only had a little bit. My brother's had most of this. So I'm excited to continue on the weeded train. We're going from Weller Special Reserve to Larceny Barrel Proof B521 to now Buffalo Trace weeded recipe. So we're staying on the weeded train. I'm going to have to maybe next week do another weeded just so we can continue this weeded. It's Weeded Wednesday, hashtag Weeded Wednesday, the day this podcast comes out, which will be tomorrow. I have a little, like I said, I have a little to-do list here of things I want to talk about. But one thing I forgot to write on there is I finished Midnight Mass on Netflix. So last week, the day I recorded the podcast, I finished recording. I took care of the audio portion. I uploaded the audio portion, and then I went back to my parents to watch episodes 6 and 7 of Midnight Mass. And by this time, I would expect you guys have already seen the show, so spoiler alert, okay? Spoiler alert. It's been out for like a month now. So, well, no. It's only been out for a few weeks. Spoiler alert, if you're listening, okay? You've been warned. I'm not going to give away that many spoilers, but I am going to give away a lot of spoilers. The ending was not that good, and I was disappointed in the ending. Now, I said last episode that the first 5 episodes were up there with Haunting of Hill House, and I meant it. Not necessarily at that level, but close. After the last 2 episodes, I am putting it significantly lower than Hill House on my all-time Mike Flanagan stuff. It's probably still a little bit better than Bly Manor, but at the end of the day, the last episode just wasn't good, and I was disappointed in it. It's too much to explain. Like, I don't want to break down the show. I just want to give my reaction here on the podcast. There's too much to explain, like, exactly what happened, and I haven't even thought about how I would word this. So we're just gonna go off the top, off the dome, freestyle this. To make a long story short, the old priest from the village, which is called like Sutter Island or something like that, is the new priest. A new priest comes in. He says the old priest is in the hospital and he's not feeling well. The truth is, this new priest is actually the old priest. The old priest ran into a vampire in a cave in Jerusalem, drank the vampire's blood, what they say is an angel, and got younger. So he had vampire blood coursing through his veins, and he got younger. He went back to the village to provide this vampire blood to the people of the village because he loved them. He knew them. He knew they needed help. This would heal them. Long story short, the main character of our show runs into the priest as the vampire, the main vampire, is there giving him more blood to pass out because he's putting the blood in the communion wine. He gets bit. He wakes up. He's a vampire. He tells his love interest of the show. He ends up dying because he gets burnt up by the sun. And basically the girl has to convince everybody what's happening. And that's basically episode 6 and 7. And at the end of it, essentially everybody has the vampire blood in them. So they all drink poison. And when they come back, obviously they're vampires because they died and came back to life. And they all end up just burning up in the end because they burn the entire village down, and then they have nowhere to go when the sun comes up. That is a very abridged version of what happened, and that was not anywhere near a good sum up. But you have to understand my disappointment when the first 5 episodes were so good, and then it's kind of like the show Dexter, how the last episode sucked. It's kind of like the last season of Game of Thrones, how the last season just sucked. This was just not a good ending, and it could have been done so much better, and it just wasn't. Definitely brought my final thoughts on the show down. My final, how the standings of the show and my all-time favorite shows. It definitely brought it down, but I did enjoy it. And I would recommend it. I just kind of spoiled it if you haven't watched the show yet. But at this point, like, it's been enough time. That's it. You got the spoiler warning beforehand. So if you haven't watched it, sorry. And I think you should watch it regardless because there are a lot of twists and turns in it that are interesting that I didn't even mention. So that's just piggybacking off last podcast with what we were talking about last podcast. I have written down here on my notes Italians, and I'm not sure what that means, but I wrote it today at work. I think it's referring to the fact that I think I'm going to be an Italian for Halloween, which, I mean, kind of a stereotypical costume, but I don't know why I wrote down Italians. Italians are the best, though. Me and a friend of mine talk about, like, things that are so Italian, you know what I mean? Like, just things that are Italian, like people talking like this and using their hands to talk. And I argued that the most Italian thing that can happen is a scene that happens in Goodfellas, where they get home at Tommy's, who's Joe Pesci's, mom's house to get a knife at like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, and she comes out and makes the three of them, Tommy, Jimmy Page, and Henry Hill, makes the three of them a full course meal at 2 a.m. I don't know anything that's more Italian than that. That's Italian. And I think Italian people are the best. I wish I was Italian. I'm convinced I am a little bit Italian because I really, really like meatballs. And my mom makes the best meatballs. Actually, my Nana might make the best meatballs. It's a tie. It's the same recipe. But that's why I think I put Italians on there. I don't know. But I did see Venom on Saturday on a whim. I thought it was not a good movie, but it was good with what it was trying to do. It was an hour and a half of just silly nonsense. that was fairly entertaining. Tom Hardy is one of the best actors alive, so there's that. Woody Harrelson just looks like he'd be a serial killer, so he played a good serial killer, and the CGI was pretty good. Andy Serkis was the director, who is like the CGI master, the movement capture master. Gollum, Caesar from Planet of the Apes, King Kong in the Jack Black King Kong movie. I know I'm forgetting a big one, but I'm forgetting right now. Anyways, he's the king of it. So they brought him on to kind of help with that knowledge of motion capture with Venom and Carnage, and it worked because it did look really good. The storyline was stupid. It was super rushed, and it still made $90 million as an opening weekend, the largest opening weekend of the pandemic era, I think, or it's at least the October record of all time. Huge numbers, it did, huge numbers. So I did see that. I did enjoy it for what it was worth. It wasn't a good movie, but I did enjoy it. So I'd probably just wait till it comes out on demand or something to go see it. But it did well. Movie theaters are back. I'm going to the movies on the 15th to see Halloween Kills. That's my next one. And then Dune later this month, I think. Then Eternals. And then Spider-Man in December. So still got some big heavy hitters coming out in theaters. I'm really excited for Halloween Kills. I loved the revamped Halloween in 2018. I thought that was so good. I loved that movie. So let's talk about the whiskey a little bit. This is the Buffalo Trace Kosher Wheated recipe right there. We did Kosher Rye recipe a few weeks ago. That was a bourbon with a heavy rye content. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. So I know I'm gonna enjoy this. Like I said, we're on a streak of wheated bourbons recently with the Weller and then the Larceny. So I'm excited to do this. We've already kind of gone over what this kosher series is in Buffalo Trace. It needs to get certified by the Chicago Rabbinical Council. I think I'm pronouncing that right. It's made with the same high-quality grains as W.L. Weller bourbon whiskey. This kosher spirit was aged in specifically designated kosher barrels. Blah, blah, blah. The same thing that we went over last time. So I'm going to pour this in the snoot glass. Not a good cork pop this week, guys, but let's get it in the glass. Let it rest. Let it marinate. So that's what we're doing this week. We're going to do a little bit of wheated bourbon. Smells so good. I love wheated bourbons. It's going to have a high score. And like I said, we found this for the actual MSRP. I don't know the last time I found like a rare quote-unquote bottle for MSRP. I don't think that's ever happened to me. That's not true. I found a Colonel Taylor for $43 once, and I found a Weller 107 for like $50. Both of which are... Actually, no, I gave the Colonel to my brother, and my Weller is up here as a backup. But other than that, I mean, it's been... For bottles that are like actually rare, I don't know if I've ever found one that's actually MSRP. We do have a Michter's 10 that we bought for $100. That must be around MSRP. Again, that's my brother's bottle. My brother finds a lot of the expensive bottles, and I'm like, oh, dude, all for you. Like, you buy the expensive bottles, I'm just going to take them and review them and get all the clout for it. You can have them. You can keep them on your whiskey shelf. But he does do a good job getting those hunts in. But yeah, I was pumped when Kale came home with this. When Kale came home with this bottle, I couldn't believe it that he found it for $40. Was blown away. And I just thought it was funny how we've been doing these wheated bourbons, and now we have another specifically wheated bourbon. There's not too many on the market. Now there's this. Now we have this. So I'm excited to do it. Lots of nice notes on the nose. Lots of basically cinnamon and vanilla. Cinnamon and vanilla on the nose. What else do we gotta talk about? There's another thing. Yep, it's right here. Two more things while we're sniffing the whiskey, while we're sniffing the bourbon. Not much on this nose though. It is, what is it? 94 proof, I think. Yeah, 94 proof, 47% alcohol by volume. I believe it's a mix of 6 to 7 years. After aging for 7 years, this wheat recipe bourbon was bottled at 94 proof. Blah, blah, blah. So it's 7 years. It's a mix of 7 years, 7-year wheated whiskey, which is an undisclosed mash bill from Buffalo Trace, the same mash bill as Weller. Corn, wheat, malted barley. So what I'm expecting from this is it to taste a lot like Weller Special Reserve. Some nice vanilla, barley, grain notes to it. Nothing too blown away. Nothing that's gonna blow me away, but something that's gonna be delicious, especially for $40. And I can already tell that's what I'm gonna get right off the bat. The corn is there. The wheat is there. After giving it some swirly poos. A little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of dried fruit on there as well. Mainly vanilla, bit of oak. It's basically just like everything that I love. Everything that you would expect from a wheated. Everything that has been constant with the nose of the past two bourbons that we've had. Let it rest a little bit more. I had a question submitted to me, so I put it on my story a few hours before I recorded this podcast. Hey, if you got any questions for me, bring them my way. Let's ask some questions. And I had a few submissions. I picked one from my buddy Adam, because I texted him. I said I'd answer it on the podcast. So his question was, I don't remember the exact verbiage. I can actually go and search it right now while we're recording. That's the beauty of the internet here. Should have had this done already, but didn't. So what Adam asked as a question on the story was, let's see here. We'll find it. Maybe we won't. Yeah, we're not going to find it. Well, that's okay. His question was essentially, what's my take on bourbons being price gouged and people who don't open their bottles that buy them? And we've talked about the price gouging a bit on the podcast before. Listen, and when it comes to bottles that are being massively overpriced, you have to understand something. The owners of these stores are only pricing whiskey because they know someone will buy it at that price. Now, a classic example is I found Stag Junior on the shelf a few weeks ago, and I saw it for $250. Now, to me, I'm just not gonna pay $250. I can't afford it. B, I won't, because I just know what the value is of the whiskey. And C, when you see it for that price and you see other bottles that are massively marked up, you just don't want to give the establishment business. Now, I ended up buying 2 bottles of mellow corn from the guy, but you just don't want to give that establishment business when they're marking up bottles that high. But they're also not stupid. They know someone's going to come in, see that Stag Junior, be like, oh, that's what everyone's talking about, and buy it for $250. And they're going to make $100 on a bottle. They can go out and buy 2 more bottles of that Stag Junior, or they can go out and buy a few cases of something and make even more money. So that's how it works. I was in the liquor business for a little bit. I understand a little bit of how it works. With that being said, now if $250 to me was like how $100 is to me right now, then yeah, you know what? Screw it. I'd pay that. You might as well, because you're not going to see it. It's allocated. And I don't blame people who have that mentality. If $250 to them is kind of just a drop in the bucket, then more power to them. More power to them. I've gotten past the point of caring what the price is. It's opened my palate up to so many terrific budget bottles that I'm happy that, I can't find a Stag Junior. I can't find an E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof. I can't find a Weller Full Proof or a Weller 12-year. I can't find, a Sam Houston 15. I can't find a lot of these bottles that are allocated and rare. But it allows us as whiskey consumers to experience so many different types of bourbons and whiskeys that I think in my personal opinion, I think it's better in all. Obviously, if I saw a Stag and it was MSRP'd, or if it was just a bit higher, I would buy it. I've had it. I love it. I want it. I want to have it. But and it also makes it more fun for when you do find it. It makes the hunt more fun. Like when I go out and hunt, a lot of times I see Colonel H. Taylor, small batch. I see it a lot more these days. And I'll see it for my heart jumps a little bit when I see it because it's one of my favorites and I can never find it. But it's always at least $100. And it's like, I'm not paying $100 for that. My first bottle I paid $80 and I was like, man, that's a lot of money. It's double. But when I do find it, and I will find it for like $45, which I did a few months ago, courtesy of a listener of Who Gives a Dram, mind you, nonetheless. It just makes it more fun. It makes going out and searching liquor stores and looking at all the bottles, it makes it more fun. So when stores are price gouging, it tells me that they know exactly what they're doing. They're not stupid. They see the cost of the product. They understand. To me, it just tells me they understand the hype of the bourbon. They understand the hype of certain whiskeys. More power to them. There's nothing that anyone's going to do to change it because they're still going to make their bottom dollar regardless. But people who don't open their bottles piss me off. Like, open your bottle. I can understand having backups. Obviously, that is completely fine. But dude, if I found a Buffalo Trace antique collection, if I found like a Pappy or just something like where you would think like, oh, maybe I could turn around and sell this for double or something like that. That thought would never even cross my mind. I was actually just talking about this with my brother the other day. If I ever found a Pappy 15, 20, 23, or like a like a Blanton's Gold or just something like that's like really just, it's super rare. Whether it's good or not, it's a whole different story. People have a bunch of opinions on that. I would crack it the second I was home. The second I was home, I got home, I would crack it. So, Adam, to answer those two questions, the price gouging, it is what it is. I think it makes the hunting more fun and more worthwhile, and I think it opens up everybody to new palates and new brands and different types of whiskeys that probably would go under the radar and maybe not even be available if some of these more popular whiskeys were readily available. And if you don't open your whiskeys when you buy them, or if you're purposely not opening them, then I just think that's weird. I don't know. So Adam, thanks for responding to my story and submitting that question. And I did have a few other questions on my story. I appreciate you guys who submitted those questions. I'll save them and answer them on future podcasts as well. But I want to drink this whiskey. I want to drink this Buffalo Trace Kosher weeded recipe. So let's get right into it, you guys. We know the nose. A slap in the face of vanilla and dried fruits right off the bat. Cinnamon is present. It's definitely got a bit of a spice to it, and it's not like a barrel spice like the Larceny had, but it's a bit more of a baking spice like a cinnamon. Obviously, there's no rye in this, so it's not a rye spice. And a little bit of oak, a little bit of like corn as well. Really soft nose, nothing too... I actually think it's quite diverse, maybe even more diverse than both Larceny and Weller Special Reserve. Because it does have a bit more of that dried fruit to it that I'm getting. Almost like a raisin. I think it smells terrific. A bit different on the nose, which I appreciate. So that vanilla, that raisin, that dried fruit, a bit of cinnamon, some oak, and some corn, all mixed in one. Let's drink this, you guys. So cheers to another week. Thank you for tuning into the podcast. Let's drink some Buffalo Trace Wheated Recipe. Interesting. Not as flavorful as I thought it was going to be, if I'm being honest. I'm kind of at a loss for words. The nose is so diverse and pungent and good, and like there's a lot of things going on. I mean, this is good, don't get me wrong. Lots of cinnamon on the palate. Obviously that I'm actually not even getting a lot of vanilla. I'm getting a lot of cinnamon. That bit of fruit, like that raisin taste is staying. It's kind of hot for a wheater. And there's not much going on to it. Finish isn't staying there that much. I mean, this is my first whiskey of the day. So I'm getting more oak on the finish. Yeah, wow. Actually, not much going on the palate and not much going on the finish. I'm not going to lie. This actually isn't nearly as sweet as Weller Special Reserve. And obviously this isn't nearly as strong as the Larceny Barrel Proof. This is more in line, I think. Let me exit out of my Instagram here. Just got a message. Someone trying to distract me. This is actually more in line with, I think, like Weller 107 with like a bit of a spicier aspect to it. I mean, obviously this is only 94 proof. It's not like it's overly, the proof isn't hitting you in the face, but I'm not getting a lot of like vanilla sweet notes. Like those creamy butterscotchy caramel vanilla candy notes. It's more like a cinnamon dark fruit note. Cinnamon raisin brand. It's definitely got a darker aspect to it. This is not what I was expecting. I don't remember tasting this the first time I drank it, but cinnamon, this is a lot of cinnamon. A lot of cinnamon, a lot of dark fruit. This is cinnamon raisin bran with a bit of vanilla. A little bit of, that brown sugar that you'd usually get. Finish is like oaky. I'm at a loss for words. I wasn't really expecting that to happen. Before I drank this, I wanted to talk about Fury vs. Wilder 3, which is happening this weekend. But now that we're already into this, I got to give this a score. I'm honestly not enjoying this as much as I thought I was going to and as much as I thought I did. Now, I'm not disappointed. I'm not disappointed at all. Listen, this is a weeder, so I like it regardless. Like, it's going to have a fairly high score regardless because it's up my alley. But it's not what I was expecting. I don't remember what I gave the rye recipe, but I think I like the rye recipe more than this. And I'm not going to search my rye recipe score because I don't want it to be influenced. My first impression of this is an 8.4. 8.4. Don't stamp it yet. 8.5. Stamp it. I thought I was just going to be upwards of like an 8.7, 8.8 maybe. I thought I was really going to enjoy this. I thought I was just going to be right on the cusp of that 9.0, like, gotta have it. It's not. It's not. Actually, I can't take back the stamp, but I would actually maybe even go like 8.3 or 8.2. But I'm going to stay with 8.5 because it is a weeder. It makes me think of some of my earlier ratings when I was handing out 7s. And 7s aren't bad. I think I gave Sazerac Rye in the 7s. I want to say I gave Monkey Shoulder in the 7s. I don't remember, but I don't have any rhyme or reason to these ratings. It's just the first number that comes into my head anyway. Yeah, this is a lot of cinnamon, some vanilla. I mean, it's fine. I like it. I'm glad we have it. I will drink the hell out of this. Like, I'll drink this. Don't get me wrong, but it's not blowing my socks off like I thought it might. So we'll stamp an 8.5 onto this. We do have Fury vs. Wilder 3 coming up this weekend. You guys know I'm going to be watching that. I'm a huge MMA and boxing nerd. I love it. I watch almost every card that's worth watching. I will be watching this weekend. My official prediction, the official Who Gives a Dram prediction for this weekend, Fury by death. I think Fury's going to dominate Wilder. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to a unanimous decision. I do think Deontay Wilder will win some rounds. I don't think there's going to be a knockout this time around. I hope there is, and I'd be very happy if I'm wrong. My heart tells me Fury by unanimous decision, by domination, nonetheless. I got on the cusp of getting the towel thrown in, but they're not going to throw in the towel twice. The Wilder camp, he would kill one of them if they did. Tommy Fury's one of the all-time classic characters in boxing too, so it's going to be awesome having him continue to be champion and continue this run he's on. And I can't believe I didn't know about Tyson Fury before. Was I calling him Tommy Fury? I don't remember. Tyson Fury. Before he made his comeback, and I didn't realize how good this guy is at boxing. That clip where he's just evading the punches from the other big guy. I think he was a Russian. I watched the fight live. We bought the pay-per-view. And he's just rope-a-doping, in the corner on the ropes. That's such an impressive, for being like, how much does he weigh? 300 pounds upwards? That's super impressive. But that's going to do it this week for the podcast. Talked about the things we wanted to talk about. Drank some good whiskey, 8.5 Buffalo Trace Kosher wheat recipe. I appreciate you guys tuning in for another week. I've got some cool guests coming on in the next few weeks. I'm going to have a Halloween-themed guest, and episode 50 is a big guest that I cannot wait for. I don't want to say it just yet, just in case, but everything should be coming to plan, and I should be having an in-studio guest, no Zooms, an in-studio guest for episode 50. My Halloween guest will be on Zoom, but there's a good reason for that. So stay tuned, you guys. Make sure you subscribe on all platforms so you don't miss an episode. Like, comment on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube. Leave a rating and review on Apple iTunes, on Apple Podcasts, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Who Gives a Dram. Make sure you're liking my content on there or just at least following. And I appreciate the continued support, you guys. I really do. Thank you for all the kind messages I get. I appreciate each and every single one of you who are downloading and listening to these episodes. Nick Bossy, What Happened to Country, is going to play me out for real this week. I forgot to add it in last week. So, you guys, thanks again. Have a great weekend.
My hands are tired of paying my bills, staring at a bottle, I'm aiming to kill. The weeks passing by and the seasons keep changing. I'm playing my song, trying to make me a name. People say as they walk out the bar, the kid's gone places, maybe even a star. They don't play country down in Nashville today, just the same chord progression with nothing to say. What happened to country? 3 chords and the truth. And who's gonna step up and fill their big shoes, writing songs about outlaws, singing all night, and songs that'll make a grown man cry. They use auto-tune now down on Music Row, 'cause true country died there a long time ago. No, they don't play Waylon on the boulevard, but they'll do anything to be rock stars. What happened to country? 3 chords and the truth. And who's gonna step up and fill their big shoes, writing songs about outlaws, singing all night, and songs that'll make a grown man cry. But I do believe there is hope for us yet, 'cause there's millions of people who cannot forget the way Johnny Cash brought a tear to their eyes, or how Marty Robbins painted Texas skies. What happened to country? 3 chords and the truth. And who's gonna step up and fill their big shoes, writing songs about outlaws, singing all night, and songs that'll make a grown man cry. A grown man cry. A grown man cry.